Hey you, how you doing? My name is Tommy, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down a request actually from someone to talk about how do you actually go about building a plan to train, building a plan to study, and actually be able to leverage your time in the most effective manner. Now, I did come out recently with a video about how do you actually go about using data to improve when it comes to things like sales. Now, if you haven't seen already, I highly recommend that you check that out. Made it for a specific reason, but that is like kind of like once you have data to make a plan around, this is more so, okay, how do I even like build out my day based on my own specific life to be able to actually get good at sales or get good at real estate or get good at anything? Because this is fundamentally like, how do you study and improve? Now, the beautiful thing about this is that this is something I've thought extensively about. I've done a lot of heavy lifting. I've spent thousands of dollars figuring this out, one of which was $50,000 to actually get access to. So pay attention to this shit because you don't have to pay that and you can just get the answers without having to go about figuring out and paying it in that capacity. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump into my framework that I use and kind of give you a case study in the case of myself. So I'm going to share my screen and just give me 2 seconds while I go ahead and set that up. Now, the framework that I'm going to be talking about is the framework called the IAI process, which stands for inventory, allocation, and implementation, which those are all big words, but basically is inventory is where you figure out the data of what is going on today. Now, everybody has 24 hours in a day, but not everybody uses 24 hours in a day. We obviously have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to do basic stuff around that. Now, when it comes to this, you have to go through and think about what am I doing with my time? What is my calendar? What does that kind of look like for myself? So if I move me out of the way and I kind of show you, essentially what you do is you go, you take out a sheet. You can use things like Toggle, which is kind of like a tracking app, or you could look back on what you have been doing the last bunch of days and calculate, okay, this is the time I have available in a day, and then figure out, okay, if I'm sleeping from 9 to 9, what am I doing the other half of the day? And then use that. So in this case, if we were to use me as an example, this is blank for a reason. I have coaching calls because I'm a part of a couple of different communities, but I try to attend when I'm not on calls. And I have a work calendar, but I'm not going to show you that because there's personal people's information on it. But essentially, it's like, okay, if I wake up at 9, part of it's going to be you spending time getting ready for work. Part of it's going to be spent, taking care of the kids. If you have a family, kids, whatever, like take everything in your life that is stuff you can't get rid of, figure it out, and then put it down on a calendar. So for me, sleep is something I can't get rid of. If you have like children, you have to take them to school, who knows? Put that on a calendar, actually put it down here, and then figure out where is my time going. This is collecting data about your life right now. So that's kind of like the first step. Where are you spending your time? Now, the other thing that you need to think about is okay, if I have got, oh, wrong button. If I have freaking 12 hours in a day I could put towards something, okay, how can I make the most of those 12 hours? So part of it is how much time and where is it allocated? Then you need to think about things like, okay, where is my attention? Because a lot of people are like time is everything. Well, attention is extremely important because if you're doing 8 hours of studying, but half the time is with your phone looking at TikTok, your effectiveness is going to be fairly low because it's not high quality work. So, where is your attention being dragged to? Do you have notifications popping up? Do you have a bunch of social media on your phone? Like, what exactly is that? Now, the other thing you need to think about, which I kind of alluded to, is like, what are your activities? So, do you currently have a job? Is that something you have to factor into your life? Like, literally, this is bare bones. If you had to put your life on a calendar, what does it look like and what are you doing? No room for any kind of error or like if, but, maybe, could, would, should, maybe type shit. Like, we are getting real hard numbers. That's what taking inventory is, figuring this out. Once you have gone through this process of figuring out what you're doing in your life, let's say like, okay, every single evening you have to pick up your kids from school, or you have to take your kids to school and pick them up from school, or you have a 9 to 5 that you're doing and using to pay your bills while you're figuring out doing something else. Cool. Put that on your calendar and then figure out, okay, how much additional time do you have? You can put towards something different. Once you've got all of that, Then we can move into the next stage, which is allocation. Now, allocation is okay, now that we know the raw, bare bones data of what's going on, how can we rearrange what we have available to be able to start accomplishing what we want? How can we rearrange time in our schedule from things we've gotten rid of? Instead of spending 2 hours on TikTok, you delete it, and then you have 2 additional hours you can put towards learning something valuable or practicing something valuable to get better, to make more money, or to improve your life, or whatever the hell happens to be. Let's take that additional time and figure out where to put it to improve. Now, the allocation section of this is where we have to think about what type of a plan are we following. Because fundamentally, if you have time that is used poorly, you're not going to get great results. If you have time that's used effectively, you're going to get great results. And the difference between people that get great results and bad results comes down to the plan that they follow and how consistently they follow it. Now, you might be like, well, what plan do I need to make to get good? That is where you need to look at the data, compare it to your goal, and then think, okay, this is what I feel based on what I understand right now is going to get me to my goal the fastest. If you're trying to improve, if you're in sales, you're trying to improve the amount of commissions you get, you need to look at, okay, well, should I look at my close rate? Should I look at my show rate? Should I look at how many calls I'm taking every single day? And then based on that, you can use critical thinking and use hypotheses to think if I did X, what would the result probably be? If I did Y, what would the result probably be? If I did Z. If you want an actual real life example, go watch my previous video where I break down essentially how to get good at sales. And I use my own data and to walk you through the decision that I made, which resulted in me making additional money in commissions. If you want a real life case study, I think it was the one before this or 2 videos ago. Um, but that's going to influence what your plan happens to be. Now, you might be like, I don't even know where to start in terms of a plan. Well, if you've actually really thought about it, if you're like, okay, what is something that I feel is bulletproof within my abilities that I can do where by the end of me doing it, I'll have improved? If you genuinely thought about it, what would that be? Then you do that. Now, what happens is a lot of people, especially people that try to think a lot, are the type of people that are like, okay, well, let me try to build the perfect plan. And then by it being perfect, therefore, I'm going to get great results easy. That is a fallacy. There's going to be no such thing as a perfect plan. You're going to have to pick something that is suboptimal and then iterate from there. Meaning you pick something that's your best, worst guess right now, actually do it. And then once you do it, stop, look back, and then think about it. How could I make it 10% better? How can I make it 5% better? How could I improve one thing and get greater results from doing it over and over and over and over and over again? So that's how you have to think through these types of things. But that kind of leads me into the implementation thing. Because what you don't want to do is get stuck in let me theorize the best plan, and then it's been 4 weeks and you haven't done jack shit. That's what you don't want to do. It's better for you to take an hour of real high quality, attentionful time to critically think through how you can get the most done with the least amount of variables, and then spend the rest of your time just doing it. And then when you're done doing it, look back and say, how could I have done it better? Because by you having done it, you will understand your plan at a much deeper level and see the obvious gaps that you didn't see before. It's very hard for you to go from zero to hero in one jump. Instead, it's like start out, do a mini jump, and then realize, oh shoot, I was kind of jumping a little bit off in the wrong direction. Let me just adjust a little bit and then keep going. Now, I know I didn't include it in the inventory allocation so IAI framework, but the last thing, of course, is going to be reflection. Reflection is important because that's how you take a step back from your plan and think, what are my results compared to what the data was before? If you had data and then you have better data now, cool. That means you improved. Then you can restart this entire cycle, except without usually having to do as in depth of inventory. And then you can make another change. And then you can go again and then compare data again. If it's worse, okay, that wasn't a good idea. Let's go back to what was better. And then let's do another hypothesis and then try again. And through you doing this, tactically, you can use your time the most effectively because you're not just willy-nilly trying stuff, you're being laser targeted. Now, if you're thinking about this from like a sales perspective, then it's like, okay, well, I know that for me, what I struggle with typically is pain or current situation or objections or whatever the hell you happen to struggle with. Then does it really make sense for you to be like, well, I struggle at objections, so I'm going to sit on a coaching call and then just listen, not ask any questions about how to get better at that? Or even worse, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to jump on a role play, not tell the partner I'm doing it with, I'm trying to get better at X. I'm trying to get better at current situation. Or if you suck at objections, I'm trying to get better at objections. And then you dawdle for 30 minutes. And then you're like, oh, well, I did a role play, but you didn't actually really train. You just kind of like effed around for 30 minutes or an hour. And that was it. You need to be tactical and intentional with what you are doing. Now, for me, the way I think about it, of course, is in the terms of hypotheses and then results. Now, for you to even know where to start, you have to first figure out where am I spending my time, where is my attention going, and then what things can I not immediately get rid of? Because that'll tell you how much time you have, and then what you can put that time towards. And if you're being intentionful with your time, you will get great results. Because if you have all the time in the day and no real focus, you're not going to get a whole lot done. When I first started in the high ticket space, essentially what I did was I went through and I'll actually just show you because that was something I popped up earlier. Um, Essentially what I did, which ended up me being a testimonial for elite closers when I went through it, I treated every moment that I had with respect to improve me. Because what would happen is this, right? So this is a kind of a different example, but I would get up for the job that I had at the time at around 3 a.m. I would get to work by around 4, and then from 4 till about, let's call it 12, maybe it was 3, it was anywhere from like 12 to like 3 p.m. I would work. While I was doing it, because of the job that I did, which is basically driving a truck around, I would, guess what? Put on training from this and listen to coaching calls, role plays, and I would do like flashcards. And I would speak to myself when I'm driving by myself out and about. So this wasn't dead time of me just wasting my life. Now you might be like, oh, well, like I can't do that. Use what you can. You might not have the advantages that I had, but does it really matter? No. All that matters is can you do with the best with what you have and can you get results with it? Because if you get results with it, eventually you can change it. You can change the situation. But anyway, tangent aside, I spent that time every spare moment listening to coaching calls, training, developing, coaching, and really trying to get good at it. Intentionful time, tactical time. So by the time I ended up getting done with work, I had heard so many things. I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to do when I have the ability to just only do the things that I want to do. I'm going to do role plays. I'm going to focus on a specific section of role plays because I heard 3 or 4 phrases that I want to try and see if it makes sense based on the context. There's going to be a coaching call at this point. Okay, I'm going to show up to that. I'm going to ask 5 questions that I want answered so I can improve my skills. And then obviously I would do things like I would go to gym. I put that in my calendar because obviously gym, improve your health, make you smarter. There's a whole bunch of studies about it. You need to be going to the gym and working out. And so then there was no minute of downtime for me, including weekends, including weekends. What some people might be like, you're nuts, bro. I was like, bro, I desperately was going to do anything I could to improve within ethical boundaries, of course. I would do anything, and I did do a lot. I made a ton of sacrifices to make sure I could ultimately improve and get good. Now, the result of that is I ended up being this testimonial here. If you can literally go to their website and you can watch it and hear me talk about stuff, because I did not know anything about sales whatsoever. That's the whole reason I bought into that program. And because I bought into that program, they gave me a lot of tools and insight that I could use and still use to this day. And I've improved greatly since back in the day. Still have to improve yet, But I am making this for you, one, because it kind of was a request, but then two, it's because I'm doing this process today for myself. Like I'm going through and being like, okay, what time am I giving to calls? What time that I'm not on calls am I putting towards training? And then of that time that's not spent training, what time is spent improving my overall understanding of human psychology in general? And then obviously still going to the gym and still doing the other stuff that goes along with that so that I can improve. Now, all of that is with the idea, the goal of I'm trying to get better at sales, to make more money, improve my life, have freedom, everything that goes along with it. If your goal isn't that, if your goal is to just get better so you can get in med school, like use the same process, but instead of make money from sales, do trying to get into med school and just have that be the goal. And then reverse engineer the different actions and steps you need to do to make that happen. If you're trying to get into a relationship, it's like, okay, well, if that's the goal, what do we need to do? How can we allocate our time with intentionful, tactical effort to improve so that we can ultimately make that happen? And if you can do that, the world is your oyster as long as you actually follow through. Because what you don't want is to delude yourself into thinking, I have the perfect plan, strategy, etc., and you do fuck all with it. That's not going to help you. What matters is the action. It's better to take action without a plan and then iterate along the way than to be like, you know what? I'm going to make the perfect plan and not even do anything with it until it's perfect, which is never going to happen. You're just going to keep pushing shit off. It's a disease of delay, as a mentor of mine says. Don't do that. But if you follow this framework, again, it shouldn't take you more than freaking like an hour of genuine thought to really nail this and have your first plan done. It really shouldn't. If it's taking you longer, I would question like if you're just not procrastinating on the work. So, all that is aside, hopefully this wasn't too aggressive. I just really want to hit home like this is the way. If you can master this, this is the way that will open for you to be able to do whatever the hell you want. If you take this process and apply it to real estate, if you take this process, apply it to freaking trading, if you take this process, apply it to dating, anything, this is the foundation that will give you the results you want if you're willing to follow it and follow through on it and then are in a position where you're just not going to quit. If you do that, success is inevitable. So, rant aside, hopefully this is helpful. If you liked it, obviously like it and leave a comment. Share this with a friend if you happen to feel like this is valuable. If you don't think it's valuable, please let me know in the comments and we can have a discussion there. But until next time, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for your time, and I hope that you are the most successful person in the world, and hopefully we'll be able to speak soon.